Welcome to Aldersgate. My name is Pastor Hannah, and it's an honor to serve as one of the pastors here. We are so excited to worship with you today, and if this is your first time worshiping with us, welcome. We encourage you to go to our website, aldersgatechurch.net/I'm-new, and there are ways to get connected. Also, wanted to let you know that as part of our On Mission sermon series that we're in right now, we are hosting a mission night on February 16th. We will gather in the sanctuary at 6:30 for a time of worship, and then we will be packing warm heart and hand kits for people experiencing homelessness this time of year. And so there is a list of donations on our website rolling on the homepage at aldersgatechurch.net. And so we ask you to bring those donations with you when you come to serve on Wednesday the 16th, or you can drop them off at the church office ahead of time or in the deck box outside the sanctuary. But we are looking forward to serving together and connecting with one another on February 16th. Also coming up, we will be having an all-church-wide study for Lent in preparation for Easter. We're going to be exploring Adam Hamilton's Simon Peter together as a church. So if you would like to sign up to lead a small group study or facilitate one, or even sign up to be a part of a small group doing this Lenten study together, we encourage you to visit our website, aldersgatechurch.net/worship, and there are ways to sign up to be a part of that upcoming study. Also, we have some big, exciting news that applies to you who have been worshiping with us online. We are beginning to live stream. The plan is to do that on March 6th. So beginning on March 6th, we will be offering a live stream worship service where you'll get to see worship happening live in the sanctuary on Sunday morning. So we will be live streaming at 10 a.m. on Sundays. So instead of posting the service earlier, or you see it on Facebook or YouTube at 9:30, we're going to shift that time slightly so that you will be watching our 10 o'clock service live together with everyone gathered in the sanctuary. So we're looking forward to that change and that exciting opportunity beginning on March 6th. I also just want to thank you. Thank you for your generous support and partnership with Aldersgate Church. When you give to Aldersgate, you allow incredible ministries here like our Revolution Youth Ministry to happen. Last weekend, a group of 30 people from this church went to attend Zeteo, a youth retreat conference in the area. And it was just an incredible weekend to see so many youth encountering God's presence and connecting with one another. So thank you for the difference that you are making in young people's lives through Aldersgate Church. We're going to take a moment to pray with one another. And just as a reminder, we've been praying #517 as a church together, praying at either 5:17 in the morning or 5:17 in the evening. And for the month of February, we are praying Micah 6:8, to do justice, to love kindness, and to walk humbly with our God. So let's pray together right now. God, we thank you that you are a good God. God, we thank you for Aldersgate Church and for the impact it has in the lives of so many people. God, we thank you for the Revolution Youth Ministry and for all the lives that are impacted through that ministry. We thank you for Zeteo and for the incredible weekend that it was. And God, we pray for the impact of that weekend to continue to reverberate in people's lives. God, we thank you for your word that calls us to do justice, to love kindness, and to walk humbly with you. So God, that is our prayer, that as individuals and as a church, we would continue to follow you each and every single day. So God, continue to lead and guide and direct us. In the powerful name of Jesus we pray. Amen. My first car was a 2001 tan Chevy Monte Carlo. I had a lot of good memories in that car and a couple not so great memories. I remember one particular memory is when I was coming home on a break while I was attending Messiah College, now Messiah University. And for any of you who've ever traveled Route 322, I was coming up that real steep incline right before you start to coast down into Center Hall. And as I was coming up that incline, I got to almost to the top, and all of a sudden my car started losing power. So I have the gas pedal completely floored all the way down to the floor, but I'm still just scraping up this incline at like 15 miles per hour, and I have no idea what to do. So I just start praying, literally praying that I will make it up the rest of this incline. So miraculously, I make it up the rest of the incline and coast down into Center Hall and finally coast into Snappy's gas station there. And I get out of my car and pop the hood and take a look to try to figure out what's going on with my car. Well, I know absolutely nothing about cars, and so I'm checking things out, but nothing is helping. And thankfully, somebody saw this ridiculous scene and came over and offered to help. This kind gentleman took a look at my car and realized we were going to need to take it to a shop. And so thankfully he had a friend in Center Hall who owned a garage, and so I followed him at my creeping 15-mile-per-hour pace and finally got the car to the shop. The mechanics looked at my car and it wasn't good. They knew they were going to have to order in a part. They weren't going to be able to fix it that day. In fact, it was going to take days to fix my car. Thankfully, by this point, I had let my parents know about the predicament I was in, and my dad jumped in his car to drive the 2 hours to Center Hall to come and rescue me. And we also thankfully had a family friend who was willing to come pick me up that I could stay at her house until my dad arrived. It was a crazy day, a crazy memory, but everything worked out in the end. The car got fixed eventually. I got home, I got back to college. But I will always be grateful for that kind gentleman at Snappy's, our friends that lived in Center Hall, and my dad, who sprung into action to rescue me that day. Right now, we're in the middle of this On Mission sermon series. Last week, Reverend Scott McKenzie shared with us and began the series by talking about the Good Samaritan. And Scott talked about us that if we are going to love our neighbors, we really have to begin with one another, that we have to show love in our families and in our church and the communities around us. And today I want to talk about something we refer to as the Great Commission, which is really Jesus' commission or command to all of us to go and make disciples for the transformation of the world. That's the mission statement of every church, to go make disciples for the transformation of the world. And one of the reasons why I want to talk about this today is because every single one of us are called to live as missionaries in our everyday life. We are called to live on mission. You see, when we talk about mission today, it's no longer so much going overseas to a different country. Instead, mission is often much more local than we ever realized before. Studies tell us that only 37% of Americans attend church on a Sunday morning. And so the mission is much more local than we ever realized before, that we are all called to live on mission together. So I want to talk about this Great Commission of Jesus, these last 5 verses in the Gospel of Matthew. So if you have your Bibles or a Bible app, we're going to be in Matthew 28, and we are literally going to be looking at the last 5 verses in Matthew 28. So we're going to begin reading together in verse 16. Now the 11 disciples went to Galilee, to the mountain to which Jesus had directed them. When they saw him, they worshipped him, but some doubted. And Jesus came and said to them, "All authority in heaven and on earth has been given to me. Go therefore and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and of the Son and of the Holy Spirit, and teaching them to obey everything that I have commanded you. And remember, I am with you always to the very end of the age." These last words that Jesus gives to his disciples are a commissioning of them, a commandment to go and make disciples. And to give you a little context on this Great Commission, Jesus had died and then was brought back to life and appeared to the women at the empty tomb. And he told them to go tell the rest of the disciples to meet him in Galilee, where he had said he would meet them before his death and resurrection. To me, this passage seems a little bit like a fire drill. I grew up in the middle of nowhere, and so there were these different trees around my elementary school, but whenever we had a fire drill, we had to meet at a certain tree to make sure everybody was safe and accounted for. I think that's the idea that Jesus was after. He realized it was going to be chaos after his death, that he needed to give his disciples a spot where they could come together to gather to make sure everybody was safe and accounted for, and for Jesus to give his last instructions, his last words to his beloved disciples. And that's what's going on. It's not a coincidence that Jesus chooses a mountain. A lot of neat things in the Bible happen on mountains. Moses receives the 10 Commandments on Mount Sinai. Elijah experiences God's presence on a mountain. Jesus gives us the Beatitudes on the Sermon on the Mount. And Jesus is even transfigured as the very Son of God on a mountain. People are often encountering the presence of God on a mountain. And so the disciples go to this mountain in Galilee, and Jesus appears to them. It's the very first time that they see the risen Christ. And the scripture tells us that they fell to the ground to worship him. they fell to the ground to worship Jesus. There was something about seeing the presence of the risen Christ that their natural response was to worship. The scripture tells us that some doubted, or you could translate that word hesitated, so we don't really know what exactly that means, of maybe something in their own experience that caused them to hesitate. But eventually they fell to the ground to worship Jesus as the risen Christ, the Lord of the universe. And as they are there on the ground, shaking in their sandals, Jesus speaks the last words to them before he would go back to his Father in heaven. And those words that we just read are jammed-packed of verbs. They're very action-oriented statements. To go and make disciples, to teach, to baptize. It's an active commission that Jesus gives. This is not a passive sit back on the couch and watch it happen. No, this is an active participate, get in the game kind of moment. This is not a sit on the couch and watch the Olympics. This is a get in the plane, fly to China, snap on your snowboard, and participate in the game. That all of us are called to actively participate in the mission to make disciples for the transformation of the world. That's what Jesus calls us to. But here's the problem. I don't know about you, but as I think back on the church over the years, that command from Jesus to go and make disciples has been corrupted in many different ways. I mean, if you think about church history a little bit, you realize that things were going fairly well for the church for the first 300 years. But around year 300, when Christianity became a legitimized, recognized religion, and then officially the official religion of the Roman Empire, things started to change. And for the first time, the nation state could use Christianity for its own political gain and power, for its own transactional interactions with the world. And if you fast forward, you get to the 11th century, where we have the time of the Crusades, where literally the Pope, the head of the church, is commissioning religiously sanctioned wars to take out Muslims and Jews, all to try to reclaim the city of Jerusalem. And then if you fast forward after the Crusades, you get the time of the Inquisition, where 3,000 people are executed as either heretics or witches or converts from Judaism. And we definitely can't overlook the issue of slavery, where in 1492 Columbus sails the ocean blue and brings with him his own understanding of Christianity and culture and disease and sickness, and wipes out entire populations or oppresses entire people groups, all in this name of making disciples, but not of Jesus and the transformation of the world, but making disciples of their own identity and their own national political powers in the world. And so to talk about the Great Commission to go and make disciples, we have to wrestle with this dark side of the Great Commission, where it has been corrupted and used in terrible ways in the course of church history. And so what do we do with that? What happened? How did we go from Jesus telling those disciples, shaking in their sandals, to go and make disciples for the transformation of the world, to it being used to do such terrible things like the Crusades or the Inquisition or even slavery? And I think one of the main things that went wrong is that we forgot to root the Great Commission in the greatest commandment. When Jesus was asked, what's the greatest commandment? He said, to love God with all that you are and all that you have, and to love your neighbor as yourself. Love, Jesus said, is the greatest commandment. That's what we ground everything in as followers of Jesus. The Great Commission to go and make disciples has to be rooted in love. If we don't root the Great Commission in love, then it can be very, very dangerous. You see, you and I, as followers of Jesus today, we are called to go make disciples for the transformation of the world, and that has to be rooted and motivated by love. It's not motivated to get more people in the pews on Sunday morning. It's not motivated to get more money in the offering plate. It's motivated solely by love. That we've experienced God's love for us, and we want to share that love with others. We think back to those disciples shaking in their sandals, and they realized that Jesus truly was the Lord of the world. That saying Jesus is Lord was saying Caesar was not, and that they were going to follow and worship Jesus and watch his rule and reign happen in creation. That Jesus was somehow bringing the whole earth back under the life-giving rule of God. And one of the ways Jesus was going to do that was through those disciples. It's through you and through me. And so I wonder if we need to have a little more shaking in our sandal moments to realize that Jesus truly is the Lord of the world and wants to redeem all of creation through you and through me. That we are called to live out the Great Commission, and we are called to do that through love. Because when we live in love, we won't interact with transactional interchanges, but we will interact as agents of transformation. The Great Commission is not about transactions, it's about transformation. So you and I are still called to go, to teach, to baptize, but it might look differently than we once thought. Going might be much more locally than we thought even a couple years ago. You may or may not be called to go overseas to serve as a missionary, but you are called to go to your children, to your aging parents, to your coworkers, to your neighbors, to show the love of Jesus. You are called to go. You are also called to teach, but by teach I don't mean indoctrinate or manipulate or bait and switch or assimilate. By teach I mean to guide, to offer another way of living, a way that's so countercultural from this world, a way of Jesus that is of peace and love and generosity and service, that we can actually taste a glimpse of heaven now when we say yes to following Jesus. Some of you know I've been helping to teach confirmation at Aldersgate, and as we've been on this journey together, we've realized we can't just teach what it means to be a good little Methodist. We have to teach what it means to follow Jesus. Like, who is Jesus anyway? And who in their right mind would even choose to follow him today? Why would I even say yes to following Jesus? When I say teach, that's what I mean. That we're to be a guide, walking alongside one another, offering what Jesus has done in my life and inviting others to experience the same thing. We are called to also baptize. But by baptize, I don't mean to indoctrinate somebody or to shame or guilt them. By baptize, we focus on forgiveness. We realize that in the waters of baptism, we are forgiven and made whole and made into a new creation, and that we are then called to share that forgiveness with others, no matter how great the hurt. So you, my friends, you and me both, we are called to make disciples of Jesus for the transformation of the world, rooted and grounded in love. We are called to be agents of transformation in the world. And so I want to give you an opportunity to do this right now. So if you have a phone with you, I invite you to pull that out, and I want you to pray for a moment of who's somebody on your contact list that's coming to your mind right now. Who's somebody that God is bringing to your heart or mind? And I encourage you to text that person right now in this moment and think about how you could be an agent of transformation in their life this week. Maybe you just text something of like, hey, you were on my mind this morning, or God brought you to my heart while I was watching a church service, and I just want to know how I can help this week. How can I serve you? How can I bless you? You can phrase it, whatever makes sense to you. But I find it so powerful that if all of us right now in this moment, we send out little text, it becomes this ripple effect of transformation in the world, where we are literally working together to bring all of creation under God's rule and reign, to bring light and love and joy and hope into the world, that we can do that right now together in this moment. So think about who that person is that God is calling to mind, and I encourage you to send them a text right now, to maybe watch the kids this week with Valentine's Day, or cook them a meal, or send them a card or a gift card. The possibilities are endless, but let's be intentional to be agents of transformation this week as we seek to follow after Jesus. Would you pray with me? God, we thank you for your command to go and make disciples for the transformation of the world. God, forgive us at times when we have manipulated that command. God, we are sorry for the times we have thought about this transactionally instead of through the lens of transformation. So God, may we be rooted in your love. May that be the only thing that motivates us, that when we think about going and teaching and baptizing, may we do that only and solely through the power of your love. So God, this week, send us out as transformation agents so that others may know and experience your love in their life, maybe even for the first time. God, we love you and thank you for this time together. In your name we pray. Amen.
I searched the world, but it couldn't fill me. A man's empty praise and treasures that fade are never enough. And you came along and put me back together. Desire is now satisfied here in your